This is the Yanks Go Yard Podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carinante.
Welcome into the Yanks Go Yard Podcast, the only podcast that gets you Bronx bombed on a weekday afternoon. I am Adam Weinrib alongside co-host Thomas Carinante as always, but joined today by a very special guest, Kait Maniscalco. Ask Kait on TikTok. You know her, of course, from her, everything that she does. You might have been introduced to her when she vowed to run based on how many runs the Yankees scored, but she does so much more than that. And we are so happy to have her on the show today. Thank you for joining us, Kait.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. Very missing baseball right now, so I'm excited to talk Yankees.
Yeah, we're excited to talk Yankees with you. We probably would have been more excited in 2022, but we're excited to have you, and we'll talk about the Yankees' future. We're going to address David Ross. We can't live down the allegations that he did turn the Yankees down. It's true. He will not be our bench coach, and Joe Espada will not either. He's the Astros manager. Do the Yankees have a better chance at Yoshinobu Yamamoto than the Mets do? It's kind of a weird thing that Andy Martino said over the weekend. Are we all of a sudden favorites for Cody Bellinger? And how aggressive should the Yankees be this offseason? We'll hit the Yankees offseason aggression meter with Kait and also get to know her a good deal up top. But first, Thomas Carinante, you have a special offer for our sponsor.
Yeah, what's up, everybody? How you all doing? Thanks for tuning in. Bet365 is still here. Remember that offer from the MLB postseason they had for us? It was for new users who registered with the code YGY betting. Still valid. You're eligible to receive up to $150 in bonus bets. All you have to do is deposit $10, place a $5 wager on any game. Once that first bet settles, you'll receive that $150 in bonus bets. Even if you lose, just make sure you use the code again, YGY betting at sign up. Very important. You will not only get that $150 in bonus bets upon using the code, but you'll also be supporting us, your favorite people. Kait too. Kait's now, I guess, part of the family, so you'll be supporting her.
Yeah, we will make sure whatever money you use on this promotion, we will funnel some back to Kait. We will agree on a percentage after the show is over.
It has 1% royalties of this.
Perfect.
The offer is only available to new customers, again, who are 21 and older and physically present in legal gambling states. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. Check the episode descriptions for full terms of the offer to see if you qualify. Oh, man. Okay, what would be your one Yankees bet this offseason? One. Signing, trade, firing, something.
Signing, trade. I think signing, I'm going to go with Juan Soto. I feel like they are going to be the favorites to get him. I know that a lot of people are saying, Yankees fans are so delusional, but I actually think that is, if I had to bet my money on it, I think that they are going to go get him.
Okay.
You're getting us, I think, at a point where I feel the same way too. And maybe my pulse changes in a week and a half. Maybe it's just that post GM meetings glow, but I think I would probably place the same bet, despite a bunch of people talking about the Yankees and Cody Bellinger, which we'll get into later. But before we dive too much into the team that we all love and also bothers the hell out of us, why don't you tell us and an audience, which, hey, some of them are peers, some of them might be 55 years old, find us on Facebook. They don't know what we're doing. They don't know who you are, how you got involved. Why don't you tell the crowd a little bit about, your Yankees story, how you got to the place where you're at today and what you've been doing over the last couple of months, because I know there's been some really exciting stuff and you've been literally at the World Series, literally with Derek Jeter. So what's this ride been like?
Yeah, it's been kind of crazy. I feel like the past, like you said, 6 months have just my entire life kind of changed with social media. But my history with the Yankees was right out of college. I worked for the Yes Network for 2 years, all behind the scenes stuff with our research department. I was a graphics coordinator. So the way I explain this to older people is those little things that you see on the screen that says Aaron Judge average and stats. That's what I did. So I looked those up, put them on the screen. And I loved my job there, but I always was someone that I knew, my first journalism class in college, I wanted to be on the air and I wanted to do more interviewing and storytelling. So I kind of took a big risk and I just started pursuing my side hustle at the time, which was TikTok full time. And then I was freelancing just, to make ends meet. And after that, I started this series called Running a Mile for every run the Yankees scored the night before. Didn't really think anything of it. I was like, this is going to be so funny because whatever. And that blew up, Talking Yanks, reposted it. I had an interview with the New York Post. So that's kind of I would say, I hate using this phrase with the Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift thing, but like put me on the map was that like running thing. So I did that. And then I basically started teaching baseball and sports to women, which ultimately also led to my success on social media. And then, yeah, I ended up at the World Series, which was crazy. Obviously would have loved if the Yankees were in it, but Rangers Diamondbacks, I was at game 1, which, not to brag or anything, I think it was the best game. Nice walk off from Dallas Garcia. But yeah, so that's a little bit about me, my background. I've always worked in television, always been a big Yankee fan growing up, and that's what I do now.
That's awesome. Yeah, in looking at all of your TikToks, like that's how I've come to know you as somebody who's informing. I don't, obviously you're the CEO of Hot Girls Talking Sports. We know that, but we know that you are kind of the go-to source for anybody who's not a diehard fan.
Yeah.
And I showed your stuff to my wife the other day because she doesn't really follow sports. She'll just like know stuff by extension from me. And, like I can keep talking and talking. And then at some point, like the retention rate is over. So looking at your stuff, it's like, 30 seconds of this, explaining me this, like what impassioned you to do that? Like, have you always been super into sports and like didn't have enough female friends who were as interested? Like, what was your main end goal here?
Yeah, that was kind of how it started, especially because I would be explaining certain aspects about sports to my friends and they would look at me like I had 12 heads. And I think it's because I was using lingo and terms that they weren't familiar with. So the whole reason initially behind that was to try and explain like a lot of the terms, like just baseball terms that nobody knows about unless you're an avid watcher, to women. And I kind of just found it as a way to get more women involved with the sport. I'm also a big strategic person. So I found that on social media, it was like 88% of my following was male. And I said, okay, well, how do I get more females to, come on the ASCII bandwagon? So that's when I started explaining it. And yeah, baseball ones were doing well. Football ones, because there are more people interested in football, so those started doing really well as well. But yeah, that's kind of how I did. I wanted more women to actually enjoy games and watching them. And I think a women explaining it to them is a lot better than having a man try and like reiterate basic terms to them.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Something I've tried so hard not to do. And then occasionally will be like telling a story about my favorite baseball moment to my wife and just being like, she doesn't want this. She does not want to know why Paul O'Neill getting a standing ovation in the 2001 World Series was meaningful to me. She just does not care. And you don't have to care, but you're doing a great job of explaining these things, and the content's great.
Thank you.
I would love to talk a little bit more about, let's talk Yankees and sort of your personal fandom. We'll talk about the team today and where we stand, but like, what are the core memories of your childhood fandom? Because I feel like you're sort of right in that area where like maybe Dynasty, you were a little, young. You got stuck with some tough Yankee years.
Yeah, it's actually interesting because I did for Paul O'Neill's retirement ceremony, I worked on his feature. So my job was basically just watching every single game from the 1998 year. And I'm just sitting there going, I wasn't even born yet. Like, this would have been great. But yeah, I feel like the core memory would be the 2009 World Series. I just turned 10 years old. So that's something that I remember, but not, as vividly as I hope. It's so funny. Like, I talk to my parents who are both passionate Yankee fans all the time. Like, I would have loved to have been, like 21 from 95 to 2001. That would have been great. But yeah, I don't have that many like core memories. I will say the most recent one I have was the 2019 ALCS. It was game 5. That one was phenomenal. So that, and then the 2009 World Series were my two like biggest Yankee memories.
Yeah, you are right in that zone of like, I think, look, this is a Yankee fan podcast, which is good because mostly fans are going to be listening to it and watching it. But you're right in that spot. And a lot of people are in that spot where it's like, it hasn't been that peachy for Yankee fans of a certain age who like definitely did not absorb the 4 World Series, got one, and it's great to get one, but there's a lot of bloated payrolls and disappointment in there. And again, if you are not a Yankee fan, do not listen to this. Do not think about this. Don't have this conversation with us. But if you are, you know that it's really not like phenomenal all the time. And you get made fun of on social media because you end up, a fan of this team that disappoints more often than not.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And especially the it's funny, like the argument that a lot of people my age is, oh, well, we have 27 rings. And it's like, well, you've been around for one of them. Like you've literally been alive for one World Series. So that's tough, like having that argument. And I think Jared Kravis tweeted out this year. He said, like, I feel bad for the younger Yankee fans because they really have like no argument on how to defend their teams. Like, well, I wasn't even around for the dynasty or the legacy.
Yeah, they get all the baggage without like any of the actual success.
Yeah, Cowboys, modern baseball Cowboys.
That's
Yep.
what we say.
That's what we argue every single episode with. Anytime we lose any series, it doesn't matter. Like we'll get anybody in the mentions or like quote tweeting us from an old article where we thought we would predict something and we were wrong because that never happens. We can't possibly have that ever happen. You frequent Yankee Stadium a lot?
I do. Yes, I went a lot this year.
Yeah. What's your perfect day there? Give us the rundown.
Ooh, perfect day. This year was the first year I ever went to opening day. I feel like that magic was just like different. Opening day was so cool. I tell everyone, like, if you ever have the opportunity to go, like take off work, go. It was funny. We were interviewing fans and like, what are you telling your boss that you're doing? Saying, I'm like, oh, I told them I'm at work. I'm working from home. It's fine. But I think perfect day, you got to get there a little bit early, go to Billy's, bar across the street, have a drink or two, and then I want to be there like before the national anthem. I'm a big proponent of like, I want to be in my seat. Like before the game starts, I don't want to be, running to my seat. And then I think outcome, I would love like a good walk-off at the end because don't like blowouts. I was at like one of the A's games this year. Don't like high-scoring games. Want it to be close up until, 8th or 9th inning. Something like that would be great.
A good 4-3 pitchers duel.
But that's my dream. 4-3 pitchers duel would be perfect.
So when you watch like you love walk-offs, you like being in the stadium for a walk-off. Yeah. If it's a tight game, if it's a huge playoff game, do you watch at a bar? Do you watch from home? Like, do you have superstitions, like psycho mode, or are you kind of like fine to be around people? Because I definitely go back and forth. I don't really know.
I have to say, if it's a playoff game, I probably could only watch it with my dad. Like, I will not go to a bar. I can't handle it. I feel like the stress is just way too much. I tried doing it last year during the division series, and they ended up losing to the Guardians. Like, it was like one of the games that they lost, and I said, okay, never again. I will never watch with people again. So now I have to be by myself during a playoff game.
I mean, the worst thing, and I hope to have this problem someday, but if they're back in the World Series and if they have a chance to clinch or something like that, if they're home, I want to go. But if not, I want to be with friends. I want to be in public. But if they lose, I will never forgive myself. So I'm definitely going to have to I'm already thinking about it, and I shouldn't be because they're 82 and 80, and we're going to be spending the whole back half of the podcast talking about coaches who don't want to come here. But I still am thinking about the World Series and like, how would I manage it? And if we lost, would I be responsible? And I feel like I would be.
Yeah. And I feel like that's how Yankee fans think too. They're like, no, it's my fault. It's my fault because I went to the game or because I did something different than I normally do that day.
Yeah. I tweeted something mean about Dustin Pedroia. Yeah. Like, I guess it's probably.
We kind of have the same superstitions around like the team making moves, right? And I think it's good for us to talk about the offseason because I don't know, like we're writing articles all the time and I get spooked out. I'm like, if we write about something too much, it's just not going to happen. And that's like one of my superstitions. And so now it's been difficult for me to concoct like my dream offseason for this team because I don't know like what is exactly realistic or what they're going to do because it's been all so cloudy. So you need to tell us, Kait, what's your dream outcome for this offseason? Everything's on just about everything within reason is on the table.
Yeah. So it's funny. I hate seeing those people that are like, oh, we're going to get Ohtani, Bellinger, and Soto. I'm like, okay, let's just relax. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. For this offseason, I think they definitely need an outfielder and a left-handed bat. I feel like if they do not do that, that is a waste, and that would absolutely be awful. So a Bellinger, Juan Soto would be great. Yamamoto, I know that they're saying that the Mets are also in on him. I feel like he would be the perfect mix for that rotation of, if you move Michael King as a starter, then you have Michael King, Garrett Cole, Rodon, Nestor, and then Yamamoto. That would be a dream. So Yamamoto, Soto, or Bellinger, because I don't see them acquiring both. I think if you get Soto, you can also get a Brandon Donovan from the Cardinals, just another left-handed bat, another outfielder, just to allow some depth. I think that Gleyber Torres, unfortunately, is going to have to go. I think Clark Schmidt's going to be in one of those trade packages. But a pitcher, and an outfielder, maybe another bullpen relief for cheap if we can. If we were to get Soto, I personally agree with Brian Hope from The Athletic. I think everyone should be on the table with the exception of Cole and Judge. If you got to give away Peraza, Pereira, and like a Drew Thorpe from the minor leagues, that's fine. I know we don't have the best farm system, but I say that anyone is on the table for Soto.
Yeah,
I agree. I mean, like Dominguez is scary. I wish I don't want to give up Dominguez. There's a chance. If you'd asked me last summer, like before we saw him, would you give up Dominguez for a year of Juan Soto? I probably would have said yes, but now that we
said that for Luis Castillo, we were like, Dominguez, like he's not going to be here for another 2 years. Like, let's get Luis Castillo.
Yeah. But it's like now that I've seen him and now that he's injured, now that his value throughout the league is maybe a little lower than it should be, like, no thanks. But you probably shouldn't have to do that for Juan Soto, and I hope not. I love the Brendan Donovan move. I think a lot of fans are being unfair to the idea of Brendan Donovan, thinking like, oh, that'll be the centerpiece of our offseason. I don't even know who that is. And it's like, he shouldn't be the centerpiece.
No.
Won't be the only move. If they acquire him, they're not going to stop at Brendan Donovan. If they do, you could scream at them. But I do feel like that's a great fit. But we don't really. I wish we when we planned doing this show, I thought we might know a little bit more about how the offseason was going to go, because Brian Cashman and Hal are talking at the GM meetings. We'll know more about the direction. And then we just got like a meltdown. We just got like a scared guy lashing out, but a guy with job security. Like, why is he screaming? Why is he upset? Like, how did that make you feel? Are you scared? I'm more scared now to talk about the offseason than I was. Well, just because I don't know. Like, I feel like he could go rogue. He could not spend out of spite. Like, is he okay? I think there's a lot of factors going on here.
Yeah, just the slew of emotions that were portrayed during those conversations, I think was the most astounding for me. Excuse my language, but I think we're pretty effing good.
That's his language. That's not your language. Don't worry.
Like, what? Like, worst team in 30 years? Do you think so? And you can address the injuries, but also take accountability at the same time. And I feel like that wasn't really addressed during the conversations. And also, I believe it was Joel Sherman asking him the questions about Peraza, if Peraza could have played more if he was hitting. And Cashman was just extremely defensive. I have no idea why. And he was like, well, if he would have hit, but where would he have played? And he goes, well, if he's out hitting Josh Donaldson, then I think that's the point that they were trying to make to him. And I feel like he just wasn't getting that. I am now concerned with the offseason because I do feel like Cash is the type of person to be like, yeah, no, you're right. And you know what? Screw you guys. I'm not going to get anyone. We're fine. It was just the injuries. Otherwise, they're going to be set. But I do think like Judge and Cole hopefully will have something to say to someone. I don't even know if that will impact it at all. But I mean, watching Judge the last game of just distraught on his face, like I think taking in the season, I'm hoping that something will happen.
Yeah. What are like you and your generation of Yankee fans? How do you guys feel about like Cashman? And well, it's different. I mean, you're how old are you, Kate?
That's true.
24.
Yeah. So like we're 10 years older than you. So we have like we're in a different realm, and we're closer to like the realm of like crazy Yankees fans.
We're
like,
the guys on TikTok. You know when somebody likes your video and it's like user 1234974 it's like that's us on TikTok. We don't have usernames. Like, we're just chilling.
That's fine.
Yeah, track us down. They'll give us a DM telling us how much we're wrong. But yeah, we're like closer, and we grew up with that obviously because like fathers, grandparents, all that. Like we knew like what their mentality was, and it's interesting to see it kind of change over time. But Cashman's been here for 25 years. He spanned multiple generations of fans, and the conversations. I think this offseason have probably reached a point where everyone's kind of on the same page, but previously, like, people were divided on Cashman, like, thought he made really good moves. Some people thought he was, his time was up. Like, what do you think particularly about his regime and how everything has kind of seemingly turned over the last 10 years or so?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people from my age are not used to the fact, but they hear from the older generation that it used to be like a World Series or bust mentality. And that's just something that we haven't seen. It hasn't been portrayed. I remember last year, they were like, we were one of the last 4 teams here. And like, of course, this is fun. It's like, well, you were just swept in the ALCS. Mm-hmm. So I think Cashman does get a lot of criticism, and it is a very difficult job. However, when you have this type of payroll, to blame something on injuries and to not address the fact that your entire team collapsed due to one player being out is ridiculous. I do think people, specifically my generation, are kind of like fed up about it and want something different. I'm curious, is the older generation similar, or are they worse?
They might be more. Yeah, they might be. I feel like we bridge the gap between the people who are just like not even willing to think about Brian Cashman and be like, I'm done. I was done 6 years ago. It's over. Yeah. And then you guys who are like also pretty fed up, but at least understand that like he did win World Series, right? He was the architect. Yes. He does make under the radar moves. We try to toe that middle line.
Right.
But at the same time, it's a lot of years of no titles in a row. It's a lot of years of poorly managing a budget. Like, I don't know. Yeah. How many years is too many? He's been here a while. Like, jobs get stale.
Yeah. Especially last year too. Like it was after they signed Rodon, they said to the media, no, we're not done yet this offseason. And then they didn't make another move. Mm-hmm. So like, wait, I think the fans are also just confused that they'll say things like that and then not like follow through with what they're actually going to do. Same thing with like Hal in the beginning of the year when he goes, I don't understand why Yankee fans are so mad right now. Like, why are they so mad? Well, now do you understand why they're so angry? But I feel like it's something that they really don't understand the market or the fan base, and maybe a hint of just like being greedy. Because again, people are going to go and sell out the stadium. They're still going to go to games despite if the Yankees aren't succeeding.
It's true. And yeah, we have like the people who have been alive for George Steinbrenner, like being super aggressive and making those moves, and him at least not, if he couldn't fulfill a promise, I think more times than not, he would wrong a right.
Right.
Or right or wrong. I'm sorry. Cashman's
wrong in all his rights these days.
I'm used to having my rights wrong.
Brian Cashman did a press conference last week. He's like, I think I'm going to wrong some rights. He had a few rights last year. I think I'm going to wrong him. I'm going to trade him to San Diego.
Yeah, so that like that group of fans is used to the follow through and the accountability, right. And they're not getting that. There's a version of that, or at least there's a lot to be desired on that front, because what you just said, that line, we're not done yet, everybody's still holding on to that. I think I've heard, I listen to Talking Yanks regularly, like that's come up a lot in their the last few months when like we were talking about before, like everything's kind of gone downhill. The discourse around the Yankees has just been so tough to kind of deal with. And I think that that brings us into like roster questions. Like Adam and I are always talking about, get these guys off the roster, get this certain player off the roster. Doesn't need to be here anymore. We've seen enough. It's kind of like with this regime, whatever. So like, are there any players that that you're done with, that need to be traded, that need to be, even released out, kind of like what we did with Aaron Hicks? We were just like, great, we're done. Any particular player or group of players you're feeling that way toward heading into the new season?
I wouldn't say anyone that, if this was last year and this was a Josh Donaldson, Aaron Hicks situation, or if this was IKF consistently playing shortstop and making us want to bash our head against the wall, maybe. But I think the only player that I'm getting frustrated with would be Stanton right now. And again, there seems to be like no repercussions, like no sense of urgency. I am also.
Did you see what Cashman said, by the way?
No, about
he said the reality is that he's just going to be hurt more often than not. That's when he just told him.
True. Yeah,
I guess he's not lying, but it's crazy because they're resigned to that being the case. They're just like, stuck in the DH spot for 90 games and then injured for 50.
It's awful, and it also takes away, I think, from like slightly off topic, but like the athleticness in baseball. Do you guys remember the game? I think he was rounding third, and he was basically like walking home.
Astros.
I just that like no sense of urgency from him, like kind of angers me. And I get you don't want to get hurt, but at the same time, as a fan watching that, it's like, what are we doing? So your job is, if I don't hit a home run, I'm not going to hustle, because then there's no point. That he's just someone that's been bothering me. But is there anyone for you guys?
Yeah, no, or he's like, that's the other thing, that like he's just always so hurt that he's put in these situations where it looks like he's not giving effort. And like, because we think the same thing, we're like, why are you in the game if that's happening? Why is the third base coach sending you in any situation? And then, because then like 2 weeks later, we're in Toronto and there's a ground ball to shortstop and they send him home. And it's like, you're not going to hold him on the single to right field with a guy who has a cannon, but he's going home on a grounder to shortstop. So I think like also like that's where everything's out of whack. Like players are not being put in the right positions, but I also think, like I'll gladly answer your question who we're done with.
So give me the mic. I want to know.
Yeah, I mean, like,
pulled out a binder. It's like, all right.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people's time has expired. Like, whether you're put in a bad position or not, time comes where you have to, answer for certain things, and you have to be held accountable for your performance and what's going on. So, like, my biggest one is, I know he's gone, but like it's Luis Severino. I couldn't. It was reaching a point. My buddy said to me the other day that he hopes we re-sign him because he knows how good he is and he thinks we can get a good price. And I was just like, no, dude,
no.
I won't be able to stomach that. Like, I wish nothing but the best for Luis Severino, but I can't go into every season, like we did the last 3 years, like thinking we're gonna have the co-ace, and then it's either performance-based issue, mental issue, or physical issue that derails it. And like players like that, like I thought they should have either picked up the team option and traded him last offseason, or just declined the team option and said, you know what, we have $15 million extra dollars. We're gonna sign somebody else. And then that would have probably given them the bandwidth to make that move that they, that they claim they weren't done yet. That would have been the next move. So that's my number one for me. And like, in terms of who's here and who needs to go, like, I think Gleyber Torres' time has just passed. I think he's a good player. I just think change of scenery is needed. They're clearly not going to extend him. If you guys, I saw the comments from the agent where it was like, we didn't approach him. Brian Cashman made it a point in the presser to say, this is Gleyber Torres' last year with the Yankees, or the final year of his contract. And it's like, okay, but you're calling him the second best hitter on the team and one of the best second basemen in all of baseball. So like, why isn't there an extension talked about then? Are you just going to trade him? Like it's like the Gio Urshela talk. It's like Gio Urshela is our starting third baseman, starting shortstop, whatever.
Right, shortstop.
Yeah. 2 weeks later, he's gone.
Yeah.
It's like, so yeah, those are my two. Adam's got quite a few.
No, I mean, I think that's you probably maxed out my list too. Like, they took care of most of my problems. Like, Domingo Germán is gone. I don't have to go on that rant again. Yeah. Gleyber, I think, I wish him well. I always sarcastically tweet, like, I wish you well in your future endeavors when he makes a weird mental error. But I do. Like, I will wish him well wherever he goes, but I think his time here is probably done. Stan bothers the hell out of me. And I've been saying, it's like he said the quiet part out loud. Like, I keep saying, like, well, play him and make him run hard, and then he will break down and get hurt, and then you can go replace him. Like, you don't have to bat him cleanup every day. He's obviously going to break down at some point. But then when Cashman says that, it's worrisome. I think that's the laundry list of people I just like don't have a lot of trouble. Like, even Carlos Rodon, I back. Like, I thought that was a perfect signing last offseason, and I spent all year being like, you guys don't get it. Like, I was a hipster talking about Jazz. I was like, no, Carlos Rodon is sick. Like, you don't understand. And then, of course, every time I defended him, he was worse and worse. But I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt for one more season because I just love it. I love the fire. I love the intensity. The stuff metrics didn't go down this year. He should be good next year. But if he's not, then everybody does have the right to do Carl Pavano and whatever. I would just say give him a year. And if he's still terrible next year, we can do all that stuff.
I agree. I think it's just him coming back from injury this year, but I think he'll be fine.
I hope so. Well, we got a lot to get into. Shockingly, that the Yankees named a hitting coach during this podcast became official. The comment section's been lighting up. James Rowson is our hitting coach. We got that handled. We don't have a bench coach. We're just going to rapid fire some of these trending topics on the back side of this show. Rowson, look, we talked about him last week. He was the rumored name. It became official today. It took longer than we thought. Led the Twins offense that set the record for most home runs in a season. Former Yankee minor league coordinator for 6 years. Close with Aaron Judge. Has the bona fides. A hitting coach is only as good as his roster, so go make the lineup better, and then maybe we'll have positive opinions of James Rowson. But I don't have much to say. I think we've covered him. David Ross as a bench coach, though, is an option I really, really enjoyed. Joe Espada as well. Both men within a 24-hour period were off the table. Espada got the Astros managerial job. Good for him. Congrats. Hope we don't regret that. David Ross actively said, don't want to come back now after being fired by the Cubs unless somebody's going to make me the manager. The Yankees are not willing to do that. And I think we're going to have probably larger conversations about Boone in a year or so. But not right now, and I get it. But Kait, what are your thoughts on David Ross as a fit, as someone we're not going to have, and then thoughts on the bench coach job in general, which is still open and hopefully won't be for long?
Yeah. So with David Ross, I mean, I would have liked to see him in the managerial role. However, with Boone, like we said, he's not going anywhere. I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. And the thing about Boone is like the players like him, so I don't see that being replaced. Like I know the media is sick of him, but the players like him. As for the bench coach, I don't know who I could see filling that. I mean, the hitting coach situation, I like Sean Casey, but I guess you have to place the blame on someone. So until they start hitting, they're just going to filter out hitting coaches. But I can't really pinpoint anyone that I personally would see as the bench coach. I'm curious to hear what you guys think, if there's anyone certain that stands out.
Well, I think David Ross felt like a good connection because he could seamlessly take over for Aaron Boone after next year, unless there is a complete shift in whatever this team's championship, realistic expectations are.
Let's do that though. Let's have a complete shift. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm tired of not having that.
Yeah. I'd like a good, it's either that or I'm a big proponent of having, the warning signs, the writing potentially being on the wall, it lights fire under people, and it could create different results. And David Ross is a younger guy. I think that's probably the trend of where managers are going at this point. The bench coach, as we've seen across the league, like it's the direct pipeline essentially to the manager job. So I think it's an important thing for the Yankees to hit on. That said, running out of options, very clear. I don't know who they interviewed. Andrew Bailey today. Adam, did you see that?
Yeah. So they interviewed Andrew Bailey today, who's the Giants pitching coach for the last 4 years and was supposed to be the Red Sox pitching coach this year. He's the director of something at Craig Breslow's foundation. So like if you fumble that bag, like if you run the Red Sox and don't hire your best friend to be pitching coach, it's kind of a weird one. But he's interviewing today. Hopefully we know more about that later. It is a direct pipeline to manager, so I don't want to go too veteran. But if the Yankees want their own Dusty Baker, you could do worse than bringing Willie Randolph back. I'm just saying, like, it's not the worst idea in the world to get someone with that veteran wisdom in there. Then you can go younger when you have to replace the manager. Nick Swisher felt like a fun candidate. We joked about him earlier, but honestly, what does a bench coach do other than consult the manager, listen to him, like, look, I don't know, learn in-game strategy, but you're mostly just like, you don't have to be a yes man, but your job is mostly to hang out by the manager, hype up the team. And if the manager wants to complain to you, you take it, you feed it to the players who need to hear it. Like, I'd rather have Nick Swisher be there than in the front office where he apparently is working with Cashman and Omar Minaya and company. But those are look, just get it right. Just get a name who, like James Rouse, and hitting coach. Is he a successful hitting coach? Not successful? I don't know. It's going to matter. Like, the players are going to help him out, maybe, and his reputation out. Bench coach, I just want a name. I want to know that guy has baseball expertise. I've seen that guy in World Series dog piles. Like, he's been here forever. He's done it forever. And now he's here in pinstripes. Like,
it's a great job. You don't get blamed for anything. You're like pretty much second in command, and you get to do stuff behind the scenes, and it's probably a lot easier. You don't have to deal with the media all the time. Like, I feel like that would be that's, new aspiration, bench coach.
Dream job.
Bench, there it is. You get to stay in the sport you like. You don't have to worry about anything. Yeah. I mean, I wish they would have, you made a good point, Kait, like the players like Aaron Boone, and Adam and I are I am whining constantly about how this team makes like the wrong chemistry moves, and they don't have like the finger on the pulse of the clubhouse. The Jordan Montgomery trade, I think, exemplified that best. And we're currently in between a rock and a hard place right now, because we know the players like Aaron Boone, but we know like a change needs to happen, and it probably has to start with Aaron Boone, because I think at this point we know the front office is not going to have some sort of house cleaning or whatever. So now it makes things more difficult, because like you want Cashman to go, I guess, against what he's been inclined to do. And then in this instance, it's going to create some sort of friction, you would think. So yeah, I would have just been like, great, David Ross, your manager. You don't want to be bench coach? Cool. Aaron Boone, you're out last year of your contract.
Aaron Boone, how does bench coach sound?
Yeah.
He was just gonna switch.
He's like, it's good. You don't have to worry about all the criticism. Imagine he did. I heard them on the Yanks Go Yard podcast. They were talking about it.
Cashman brings them both in and he goes, would you guys be down for a swap? You guys seen Freaky Friday? You seen 13 going on 30? Well, now you're a bench coach. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I do think that's probably the right vibe. I just want someone with experience.
Yeah. That's why I'm worried about Espada. I think it's the Astros just leveling up again. You lose everything from the cheating scandal. You get Dusty Baker. You lose Dusty Baker. Now you have this guy who's been here with all this championship experience, all this high leverage experience, and it seems like it's just going to be seamless. I know they have a lot of questions coming up next offseason, but they always seem to figure it out.
Yep.
And Kate, I will throw this one out there too for you though. Like, you're a 2009 Yankees fan. Those are your core memories. Like, I have friends who want this and friends who don't. Do you want Alex Rodriguez in the dugout at some point?
No, I
don't either.
I'm an A-Rod fan. I love him. I do. I think it's going to be hard to get like the players' respect from him in that regard. So I feel like, stick with Fox, do your broadcast. I think he does a great job at that. As phenomenal as he's been, like top 5 player, I don't know how that would bode well. Would you want to see him in the?
I'm on camp. No, I'm on camp. No, I also before, like, I've wrestled with this for a long time. Like, we won the World Series in 2009, so clearly worth it. Good to have A-Rod. He had a postseason for the ages, but I definitely every 6 months, I'm like, was the overall A-Rod experience worth it? Was the extension worth it? Like, the baggage. When you're going into Fenway and you're actually on the wrong side of history, that sucks. Like, when all the fans in the stands are like, you did steroids, you did whatever, you cheated, you're stealing money, you're suspended. And all you have to do as a Yankee fan is just be like, we're the villains today. Like, oops, it doesn't feel good. So I think overall, I'll take the ring. I'm happy, and the memories are great. And he's had a good post-career rehab. And I guess him and Madison from Southern Charm dated, and that's great. But overall, I think, no, I do not want him to be back in the dugout.
Yeah, no.
What about the redemption story, though? Like, A-Rod's kind of now that you bring all that up, it is tough to justify. But A-Rod's done a 180, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
He's reinvented his personality. He's kind of he's put all the unsavory aspects, I guess, of his character in the rear view, and has, I guess, a tone for everything, and seems to be in a good place. I think maybe I think you guys are right. Like, I think maybe the next generation of players, like that, all that stuff can blow over, and there won't be a respect factor, and there probably won't be that type of concern. So I guess I'll change my answer. Yes to A-Rod, not right. Yes to A-Rod in 2030.
I like it.
Yeah.
Give him 7 years. We're good.
Yeah, give him 7 years in the booth. He'll learn how to deal with them. He'll learn how to, deal with the media, because now he's asking the questions. He knows what tough stuff he's going to be. Obviously, he has experience doing this as a player, but now he's been out of the league for so long. Now he's back at the front lines again. Get all this media training, because when you become manager for the Yankees, it's no holds barred, because the front office doesn't have your back.
Yeah.
How about this? A-Rod manager in 10 years, bench coach Carlos Correa.
Sure.
Recently retired Carlos Correa. I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
This is exactly where
I like the hypotheticals. I like them. Yeah,
give exactly where I thought this podcast was going to go. I was like, we'll have Kate on. This will be great. We'll be talking about 2035.
A-Rod for president.
And TikTok commenters. This will be great. Let's go into offseason player acquisition mode. Just before we go, we talked about all these names. We threw them out at the top. Your dream offseason, etc. Yamamoto. Andy Martino says the Yankees have a better chance at him than the Mets. I'm not sure what that means necessarily, considering the Mets are definitely going to go all in. We know that, there have been rumors that Japanese stars don't like to play or share locker rooms with other Japanese stars.
Yeah.
But Kodai Senga has been recruiting him, so I don't know why that would be a problem. And like Ohtani and Boston have been connected a little bit. Ohtani and Yamamoto in Boston, like, I don't know. Maybe some people are different. Maybe Yamamoto will go anywhere. But the indication from Martino is Yankees have a good chance. The Mets are going to go all in. So will the Yankees, and the Yankees might have a better shot. Bob Nightingale said we are suddenly favorites for Cody Bellinger, with the Yankees, Cubs, and Giants all in that top 3. That makes me nervous. That better serve as a bellwether for how aggressive they're going to be. But let's use this to get into that conversation. First of all, how nervous does Bellinger make you? I think you hinted at it earlier in the show, but like that number's going to climb.
Yeah, because I know Bellinger had a great year. I feel like I'm one of the only people that think this too, but is it like that was his peak and it's only going to go downhill for the remainder of the years? And the price is probably going to be the highest after this season. Obviously MVP in 2019, but following now, I would prefer someone else other than Bellinger. And if it's like a Soto or Bellinger, obviously I'd pick Soto. And again, I feel like I know this sounds really bad and bad karma, but I feel like if they sign Belly, he's going to have an okay year next year. And then it's just going to consistently go downhill, similar to like a Stanton situation, then progressively get worse throughout the years. I think he's what, 27, 28?
Yeah, he's age 28 season he's going into. So you get like, I guess, the decent front end prime years because usually free agents approach 30. Typically, I think that's the average, and Bellinger's a little bit younger. But I did have a crazy thought about what we could do.
Carlos Correa for bench coach?
Yeah, Carlos Correa for bench coach in 2040. No, because Kait mentioned it earlier, and I'm going to have to disagree because I do think there is a world in which Soto and Bellinger are possible. Because remember, Soto is not signing an extension. And I think the Yankees know that that's not happening, number one. And number two, I think even if he gets to free agency, it's going to be tough for them to be, I guess, at the top of that bidding war because of all the other teams that are going to be interested in him. So what if you trade for Soto, you get Soto 1 year, and then you see what happens in the offseason. You sign Bellinger. I'm not for it, but it'll help in the meantime, and we need to get better. And then you trade for Jonathan India, you trade Glaber for pitching, and then there's I think there's other cost-effective pitchers we can go after because you're right, Adam. I'm not sold on us being the favorites over the Mets. I don't know why that would be the case.
No.
And I also think that there's the weird Steinbrenner Cohen thing where I don't think they're not gonna get in each other's way. So I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what it's gonna look like, but that was my crazy thought that I had earlier. Jonathan India.
I like it.
Glaber out.
I do too. Cohen and Steinbrenner are like weird besties. Like there was some Twitter discourse today. There's some Twitter stuff today that was like, Hal's not going to want to be outbid in his first bidding war with Cohen. And I'm like, I don't think Cohen's also not going to want to be outbid. And like, they're just kind of shaking hands. They don't even want to get into a bidding war, I don't think.
Yeah. Because something came out about that last offseason, right? Like, isn't that when it?
Well, Cohen stayed away from Judge. That was the backdoor. That was like the backdoor handshake agreement that was reported. We don't know if it's true, but which makes sense because you don't want to fully disrupt the balance of power in New York and have it be like that. But at the same time, like, I don't know, all bets should be off in reality.
Yeah, no, it was the Steve Cohen, like, if he really wants to be a crazy guy who scares everybody, like, he would offer $550 million for Aaron Judge. And they kind of just weren't even in. And it was like, oh, do these guys have, like, a secret agreement? I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know. Well, that plays in perfectly. Kait, before we go, we do want to do in totality. Like, if they're going to be this aggressive, like, we're talking big names, but we've also got the Brian Cashman press conference. And we've also got Hal Steinbrenner not understanding why fans are mad. And we've got we've got bigger than Rodon, and we've got all these things in times when they haven't spent to their full capacity during a lot of your fandom. But you brought up a great point about the prime age superstars currently on the team. Could be tough to justify going all in, but also tough to justify just taking a year off. In terms of having an aggressive offseason, you like press that button, like 1 to 10. How aggressive do you expect them to be, and how aggressive do you think they should be?
Okay. I think I would say like a 7, they're going to be aggressive. I would like it to be more of an 8, 9, because again, I mean, all of Yankees Twitter was saying, wow, Cole's Cy Young season is now out the window. We have nothing to show for it. I mean, 4th in the AL East? I would say they're going to be like a 7 because I don't know how much I trust Cash and Hal, but I would like them to be more of an 8 and again go for the next 2-3 years a shot at the title in my opinion. And I know you could make the argument, just go into a rebuild. You got, all of the kids and don't go for anyone. But in terms of Cole, in terms of Judge, in terms of, even Anthony Rizzo. I think he's going to have a comeback year, but I say go all in, and this is the time to do it.
Yeah. Thomas, what about you? How aggressive do you want him to be?
I think, well, what do I want? I don't know. Like, it all depends. It all depends if, we talk about it. We've talked about it a million times. Is the spending this offseason going to hamper them going after guys who are better fits next year? I don't know. My inclination is I think that the long-term free agents this time around, outside of like Ohtani and maybe like Blake Snell and Yamamoto, are going to hamstring you more than they're going to help you. I'm just talking about this Yankees team. But on the flip side, the Yankees believe that this roster is good. Mm-hmm. So I think that creates another problem here. So I guess in considering all these hypotheticals of what I think they're going to do and what I think they think the reality is, you got to be super aggressive with trades. So you got to go after like someone like Jonathan India, Corbin Burns, Juan Soto, and just empty out the farm to an extent that you're comfortable with, and then figure out, one of those two guys to extend. Like, I know Burns is a Boris client too, but I think, with the right offer there, you could probably make that work. Juan Soto's in a league of his own, and Boris is going to force free agency there, but I would rather them, just knowing how they operate with money. They spent a lot last offseason. If they do like Yamamoto and that's their number one target, like, I think the spending is going to end there.
Yeah.
So if that's the one guy they go after, that's the big ticket acquisition from a money free agency perspective. And then I think they have to go hard on the trade market. I think what do I think? I think they're going to be I think they're a 6.5 in terms of regression. And I think they need to be a 9 with trades, not with money. I wouldn't prioritize money spending this offseason.
I agree. I was going to go exactly one notch down from Kate. I was going to say, like, I want them to be a 7. I think they'll probably be a 6.
Yeah,
I agree. If people call Brian Cashman Ninja Cash, which is somehow stuck around forever, Cash God, like, he's going to have to be full Cash God, because you cannot spend your way out of this offseason, because we went through the targets. Soto will hit free agency next year, but we'd love to have him for 1 year. And like I said at the top of the show, you're talking to me today, I do think we get him. You're talking to me after Thanksgiving, I had a slice of pumpkin pie, maybe another slice. I'm like, I might be more iffy. We don't know. Right now, I kind of do feel good about that. But then spending, like, they're going to get in a bidding war with the Mets for Yamamoto, who we like. But that's a big spend on a slightly unpredictable target. And Cody Bellinger, we all went around and decided, like, hey, if he shows up on my team tomorrow free of charge and doesn't block any other signings, great. Welcome to the team. But, the Yankees have proven that, A affects B affects C, and Corbin Burns next year, Willie Adames next year, Soto hits free agency next year. You got to have the money to do that. So you can't waste a Judge Cole prime year, and there's nothing easier. The people on Twitter, and Kate, hopefully there are fewer of these people on TikTok, and hopefully
I don't think there are.
Hopefully you don't read your mentions, because there's nothing easier than to just be like, rebuild, sell everybody, don't care, hate everybody, trade Judge, trade Cole. It's like, it's really easy to say out loud, but these are humans. Like, it would suck if the Yankees won 52 games next year. Like, sometimes you want to grab people, like, are you enjoying the New York Giants season? Because that's what that's what happens when you tear a whole roster down. It, like, really sucks. You lose every single day. So, like, if you don't like that, you're not going to like that. But I think they should be pretty aggressive, and I think they're going to be moderately aggressive. And I think hopefully the non-tender deadline, like, we're going to lose some guys off this roster. That's today or tomorrow. So, we're going to know more very soon.
Morosi just said we're going to be until the very end in on Bellinger. Just said it. So that's a double confirmation on wherever all that information's been coming from.
Fine by me.
Yeah, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
Yeah.
Well, we'd love to stay on the live stream with you, Kate, until the end of the Bellinger sweepstakes so that we could know what happens. We'll let you go. We really, really appreciate you spending so much time with us. This was great. Let us know and let the audience know where they can find you, what you've got coming up, and big plans for the rest of the year.
Yeah, sure. So on TikTok, Instagram, it's Ask Kate with 2 Ks. So ASK, KAIT. And I have some football stuff transitioning a little bit towards the end of the year, but hopefully we'll be springing back with baseball in February. So I'm excited.
Are you a Giants fan?
I'm a Jets fan.
Oh man, well, I mean, what does it matter at this point? It doesn't.
It can't get any worse.
Yeah, I
Can't
mean,
get any worse.
outside of a historical lens, like sure, we can go back and do that, but yeah, this is brutal. I watched that whole game last night. I don't know why.
Literally, that's all everyone was tweeting. Like, why am I wasting my time watching this game?
That's the football thing, though. The difference between football and baseball, you're right. Of course, the football content does well because a horrible baseball game, people are like, I'm going to bed. The worst football game ever, people are like, oh, it's a terrible offsides call in the middle of the third quarter of Jets Raiders 12-9. It's like everybody's watching this stupid nonsense. So, of course, it's doing great.
It was awful. It was so bad. I feel like that's just been the theme, though. Also, ever since the first game with Aaron Rodgers, I'm like, why am I watching this? It's so painful.
Yeah, not a Jets fan, but I was excited to have a year with Aaron Rodgers in New York City. I was like, I wonder what that looks like. It'll be nice to follow, like when the Mets were in the World Series. Objectively, not a Mets fan, but I was like, I'm a baseball fan. It's the thing I care about most. New York is going to care about baseball for the next week and a half. That's awesome, and that's how I felt about Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. And then 3 seconds later, it's like you gotta be fucking kidding me.
It's awful. It's not a good time to be. I think any New York sports fan right now. I mean, I think the Rangers are doing well.
Rangers are hot. Yeah.
Other than that, it's like, oh well, all right, maybe next year.
Always maybe next year, and maybe we'll have you. Hopefully, we'll have you back next year and throughout the year to talk about things and keep an update, keep a track on how the offseason is actually going, whether they're getting closer to our dream or not, and then maybe how much of a disaster it's become. We'll talk next summer. We'll see what's up. But thank you so much, Kait, for joining us on the live stream. YGY betting is the Bet365 code. If you want to bet the Jets under every game that they play, you can do that. I certainly bet on the Jets last night against them. It was great. I won money. But that's the code. New users, make sure you check the episode description, sign up. If you aren't subscribed to the Yanks Go Yard podcast on either YouTube or all your favorite podcast platforms, please do. Please rate and review us if you get the chance. No better time to hang out with us on the live stream, on the audio podcast than during the offseason because we get to make our own team. We get to play GM. The Yankees could be anything we want them to be until they actually take the field. You mentioned, Kait, going in there for opening day. There was just such a stark difference between opening day and game 2 last year. It was magical on opening day, and then it kind of wasn't at all. So how about you can sustain the magic yourself all off season long. Hopefully you have a great 2024. But for Kait Maniscalco, thanks for joining us. For Thomas Carinante, I am Adam Weinrib. We'll see everybody on Thursday for another live show.
Later.